What's up guys, it's James here, and in today's video I want to talk about a question that comes up pretty often when people are looking into Airbnb management businesses and looking into starting a business. A lot of people wonder, well, what are the costs involved? Like, what are the costs that I'm going to incur if I start managing properties on Airbnb? It's a really good question, because anytime that you're going into a new business, it definitely is very smart and makes a lot of sense to really understand ahead of time what kind of costs you're going to incur so that you can have a clear idea of exactly what kind of planning you need to do on your end to be able to get started. So in today's video, I'm going to break that down for you step by step. I'm going to talk to you about, number one, what costs you're going to have before getting your first property. I think that's an important number to know, is what costs are you going to have out of pocket before you actually get your first property and start having cash flow coming in. I'm also going to talk to you about what costs are you going to have that are sort of operational expenses, is what we're calling them. Those are going to be expenses that you'll have after you get your first property on board that are going to come out of your management fees. I want to talk to you about that. And then I want to talk to you about the fee structure, as far as what things are you paying for out of pocket. And I want to also talk about what things your property owner is going to be paying for, because there's typically a fair bit of confusion around what gets paid for by the property owner versus the property manager. And so I want to just really shed light on that so you can get a whole complete picture of exactly what the financial side of the business actually looks like. So to start out with, I'm going to interrupt myself. To start out with, could you please just drop a quick like on the video down below? Just if you could, it would mean a lot to me. It really helps me out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. So if you could just drop a like in the comment, or in the little like bar down below there, just give the video a like. I'd really appreciate that. Jumping back into things. So to start out with, what are the costs that you're going to have before you actually get your first property under management? That's, I think, a really important one. That's probably what most people are wondering about. So let's address that one first. The costs you're going to have before you get your first property under management can go very high. However, I really don't recommend it. As with any business, you can go and spend $10,000 getting a website set up, but there's really no need to do that. You don't need to spend more than $20 getting your website set up. So I want to put an asterisk on everything I'm going to say here, that you can get really stupid and really ridiculous with this. But in terms of what you need to do, you definitely don't need much. You only need to spend, I would budget about a couple $100, typically about $200, maybe $300, to get everything set up and get your first property on board under management. Now, what this is going to go into is going to be for your website, number one. I do recommend setting up a website. However, I recommend setting up something that's very basic. So what I mean by that is you're going to have to buy a domain, which typically is going to cost anywhere from $10 to $20. You can buy it on whatever website you want, GoDaddy, Bluehost, whatever you want. Grab yourself a domain for your website and then set up website hosting. My clients and we use a website builder called Squarespace. But if you're familiar with another one like Wix or WordPress or whatever you want to build that website, that's going to be another about $10 a month in expense. So right out of the gate, you're looking at about $30 or so to get your website set up, plus an ongoing cost of about $10 a month to just kind of keep that website up and running. So that's about $30 right there. The other expense you're going to have is you're going to want data for the area that you're going into. So I recommend getting data through a data mining company that I quite like. I always get my data from them. They're called ARE. ARE is a really great tool that you can use to basically just figure out exactly what the nightly rates, what the occupancy rates, what the different seasonal fluctuations are in any given area, so that you can figure out, using their data, you can basically look at any given property in any given city in anywhere in the world. Big city, small city, rural place in the middle of nowhere. Trust me, they have data for it. And you can say, okay, how much is this property going to earn over the next rolling 12-month period? What are the seasonal highs and lows going to look like? What are the occupancy rates going to look like? It's a really powerful tool for you as a person going and managing these properties to be able to figure out where the biggest opportunity is. It's also a really great tool to use with your property owners, because it's a really great way to give them a lot more confidence and help to close more properties under management, because you're just giving them the confidence. You can give them projections. You can show that you know what you're talking about. Now, the catch catch with that is that the data, you buy it on a monthly subscription. And so for a really, really small town, this is going to be about $30 a month. For a major city like the city Toronto here, you're going to be looking at closer to $120 a month. Now, I've built out a tool that helps you to avoid that being a monthly recurring expense, because obviously that gets quite expensive if it's monthly recurring. And so I've linked to it down in the description below. It's called our Profitability Projection tool. And so what that allows you to do is we've custom built this, and it basically allows you to grab the data from AirDNA. So you buy it one time, you pay for it, whether it's $30 or up to about $120. You're going to pay for that data. You're going to grab the data, put it into the projection tool, and that houses all your data for all your areas. And it breaks it down to a really, really easy to read format. So rather than looking at a bunch of raw data, you can look at, okay, you can just basically select on the drop down 3-bedroom, and you can see exactly how it's going to perform. And it's using data from your specific area. So again, link is in the description below if you want to download that. And that's going to keep your cost to be just a one-time expense for that for up to a maximum about $120. So that's basically going to cover you. That's where you're going to get a couple $100 in expenses up front. Now, the other thing I obviously very, very highly recommend, I'm also very biased in this. I've always used coaches. I've always worked with coaches. I now coach hundreds of people how to run their business successfully. So I'm obviously biased towards getting a coach, but I really, really fundamentally believe that if you want to start any business, you're going to pay a lot less to learn from a coach who's experienced, someone who has actually gone and built the business before and learned the mistakes, figured things out as they went, and then can pass that on to you. That's going to be a lot less expensive to go and learn from someone like that than it's going to be to go and figure things out on your own the hard way. Because number one, you're going to have a lot of trial and error. So there's opportunity costs associated with that. If it takes you 1 month longer to get your first property under management, then you're throwing $500 or $1,000 out the window. That's if it only takes you 1 month longer. You know, if you make one mistake where you do the wrong thing, it's going to cost you there. It's going to cost you again. If you make the mistake like I did when I first got started, I set my cleaning fees too low, and I didn't realize that because I didn't account for things properly, and that ended up costing me a couple $1,000 just because I was careless with it, and it took me a while to figure that out that I made that mistake. So you're going to want to factor in a couple $1,000 in my experience and in my opinion for coaching, for finding the right mentors. Now, again, if you want to work with me, I try to make it as affordable as possible. I've got a link in the description below to a free training that you can go through that walks through as well, just exactly what it looks like to work with me, how we work with people, how that's structured. We work with people lifetime, and we've already working with hundreds of people right now, helping them to grow their businesses. So again, if you want more details about that, you can check the link in the description below, or you can go to bnbmastery.com and you can check out and learn more about exactly what it is that we do and how we operate. So that's going to basically be the first category of expenses, which is going to be your out-of-pocket before you actually get the first property under management expenses there. Now, the next category is going to be things that are going to come up as costs while you're actually managing properties. And I'm going to kind of combine this with this section number 3 that I talked about, where I'm going to break down which expenses are associated with the property owner, meaning the property owner pays for them, versus which ones you as a property manager are going to pay for. I'm just going to combine those two. I'm going to talk about them as we go here, and I'm going to explain which ones you're going to pay for as the property manager and which ones the property owner is expected to pay for. So to start off with, the very first one that you're going to come across is the cleaning expense. The cleaning fees are going to be basically paid out to a cleaner when they go in there and they turn over the property every time there's a change between guests. Now, this is something that you can do yourself. However, I really don't recommend it because it's going to take up a lot of your time, and you're only going to be earning about $60 or so an hour to be doing this, depending on what you're setting your cleaning fees at. You're going to be earning maybe $30 to $60 an hour doing this. And it's not really going to be worth your time, in my opinion, because if you're focusing on other things like growing the business, you can be earning a much higher amount of money for that time that you're spending on actually growing your business, focusing on those higher leverage activities. So with that being said, cleaning expense is the first one you're going to come across. Now, the really nice thing about this is that you as a property manager are going to be earning a percentage management fee for managing your properties. And on top of that management fee, you're also going to collect cleaning fees, because one of the nice things about the way Airbnb's platform is set up is that you can go and set your nightly rate for your property and then also set a cleaning fee rate, meaning that every single time there's a guest turnover, that guest is going to pay, the person that's checking out, they're going to pay $60, $100, $200 on some of the larger properties. That's going to be a cleaning fee that's separated out from the nightly rates that they're going to pay for every single one of their stays. And so that means that that money is going to go directly from the guest to the clean team. It's going to go through you, obviously. It's going to come into your bank account. You're going to use it to pay the cleaners, and then you're going to get your 20% management fee on top of that. So it's not an out-of-pocket expense. It's not something that's coming out of your management fees, but it is something to be aware of because it's an operational expense with running the business. Now, the other expense that you're going to come across is software expense. And so while you're running the business, you're going to have some software that you're going to need, or you're going to want at least, to get your everything into one centralized backend to help to automate a lot of the guest communication. Typically, this is going to run you about $20 to $40 per property per month. So as a baseline, I like to tell people to manage properties only if they're going to be bringing in at least $600, ideally up to about $1,200 per month in management fees. So out of that $600 to $1,200 a month that you're going to be earning in management fees for each one of your properties, you can expect about $20 to $40 of that to go towards softwares. Now, there are some really expensive softwares out there that take a percentage of your overall bookings. Like, for example, Guesty charges a percentage varying between, I think it's about 1% and 3% of your overall bookings to help you with things like guest communication, offer the software, all that. That ends up being grotesquely expensive for a property management company. I can understand how someone who is just wanting to have that for one single property, they don't really mind, they don't really know what they're doing. That can be a good service, but I really don't recommend this at scale because 1% to 3% ends up being exceptionally expensive, and you're really not getting what you pay for when you compare it to other services, other softwares like Hostaway, like Smart BNB, that offer basically the same service, but for a fraction of the cost, because they don't charge you a percentage of your revenue. They just charge you a flat monthly fee, typically, like I said, about $20 to $40 a month per property. So that's a really great route to go. And the other beauty of this is that I actually highly recommend that people use a software called ARE GMS. Now it's actually called iGMS. They did a recent name change when they have their first 5 properties. The real beauty of that is that those first 5 properties, you actually don't get charged by iGMS at all. It's really cool the way that they work. They only charge you for more than 5 properties on their software. And so I highly recommend when you're starting out, you just keep your software expense at 0 by using iGMS to get your first couple properties under management. Once you grow out of that software, you might want to upgrade to a more expensive one of those $20 to $40 per listing per month ones. But your first 5 properties, you can keep that software expense at 0, which is really nice. So that's your software expense. Now, the third category of expenses, and there are only 4, the third category is going to be for your guest communication. You're typically going to want to put guest communication in place to have someone helping you to communicate with your guests, answer their questions, respond to guest booking inquiries, that sort of thing. That's going to come typically somewhere in the 5 to 10 property range is when you're going to think that you're going to want to need some help with that. The reality is, for the first 5 properties, you're probably not going to need much help with it because it just isn't going to be too demanding of your time. So you can probably do all of it or almost all of it completely on your own without really having any kind of a big time burden on it. Once you get beyond 5 or 10 properties, that's when you're typically going to want to have some help with that. And so for that, I recommend using virtual assistants. Now, the really nice thing is that you can find virtual assistants out there that are already experienced with short-term rental, Airbnb, guest communication type of roles. You can find these on sites like Upwork, and then to find the right person, you want to have the right systems because it can create a whole bunch of headache if you hire the wrong person or you don't have the right systems to train them and set them up properly so that they know how to actually learn and answer the questions appropriately. As long as you have all that in place though, and obviously, if you don't, then just check out the free training down below. I have systems and everything all built out to help you with every single step of that. Once you've got that all in place though, you can hire these people and you're gonna be paying, again, about $30 to $40 per property per month is a good figure to ballpark exactly what you'll be paying. Because the nice thing is with virtual assistants who are doing this, they're typically only gonna bill you, if you find the right person, they're only gonna bill you for the time that they actually spend replying to messages, etc. So if they're monitoring your listings for a total of 8 hours throughout a day, but they only spend 3 hours actually responding to any messages, rather than getting billed for 8 hours, you're gonna get billed for 3. They're able to do this because they manage for a whole bunch of different people, a whole bunch of different property managers, different property owners all around the world. So they're billing out different time throughout the day to different people. That makes it really nice that you don't actually have to have an in-house, like dedicated person who you're paying a salary to or paying, for 8 hours a day to be responding to a few messages. So that's another really great one. So again, those are basically all of the expenses that are coming out of your management fees. So the really nice thing there is that you're really only looking at about $80 a month on the top end. Once you have your software set up, once you have your virtual assistant set up, you're looking at about $80 per month per property, mind you. But that's coming out of, like I said, about $600 to $1,200 a month in management fees. If you're managing the right properties that are bringing in enough income to support that, then again, the rest of it is basically just profit. You may have some overhead if you get to the point where you're at 30 properties, 40 properties, and you have someone in-house who's managing things, then you might have a little bit coming out of that as far as overhead goes. Anything like that is extra. That's really not something that we're going to consider for the purpose of this video, which is, I'm really just talking about when you're first getting started, you're getting up to 20, getting up to 30 properties under management, getting to your first $10,000 a month in profit and income. So that's basically going to be your out-of-pocket expenses coming out of your management fees. There is, however, one last category of expenses to be mindful of, but this is one that the property owner is going to be paying for. You are going to be responsible for taking care of it. It's the maintenance on the property. Now, I say that you're going to be taking care of it because typically in most situations, if you're managing locally, you would be taking care of the maintenance for them, meaning that if a toilet gets clogged, you would have someone go over there and unclog the toilet. If there's a leaky pipe, you would take care of having someone go over there and fix it. You would then bill the property owner for any of your time involved in getting that done. You would also bill the property owner for the maintenance expense related to having that plumber go by or whatnot. And the beauty is that typically if you have things set up the right way, the way that we recommend having things set up is that all the money flows into our bank accounts for the business, and then we issue a monthly payout to the property owner. So there's no chasing a property owner around for their money because we just deduct any expenses from the monthly payout that we pay out to them. So that's a real big advantage there. And then that's basically going to be your maintenance expense. Now, again, the nice thing there is that property owners are going to be very used to that. They're used to paying for maintenance at their own property. There's nothing weird about that. There's nothing different about that. A lot of people I find question that and they think, well, is the property owner really going to be okay with paying for maintenance? They paid for maintenance on their property for as long as they have owned the property. They're always going to be paying for maintenance on the property as long as they continue to own it. It's not going to be any surprise to them there. So that's, again, something the property owner is going to be the one actually footing the bill for, but that it's important to just be aware of moving into your business. So hopefully this is giving you a really good overall picture of the breakdown of different expenses involved in managing properties for other people on Airbnb, how the income looks, how the expenses look, how it all breaks down, how it all shakes out. If you like this video, if you got value from it, then just drop a like on it. I really do appreciate it. It helps me out tremendously with YouTube's algorithm. If you want more videos like this, just hit subscribe. I post videos like this twice every single week, breaking down Airbnb, Airbnb management, basically all things in the world of Airbnb. So if you're interested in staying up to date with all my latest videos that I post twice weekly, then just click subscribe there and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Again, just drop a like if you appreciated it, if you got value from it. If you're on YouTube right now and you have questions for me, if you have other topics you want addressed in another video, then let me know in the comment section down below there. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.